behind some of our artists and their lives since the pandemic. Some are producers, but some are not. Some are just live music. And in my heart, they are unseen heroes. We don't realize how much we pull on music, how much we love music, and we need it to survive until it's gone.
Yeah.
And until you're standing in a room singing all by yourself, and you need that piano, you need that horn, you need that this to get you, to usher you to a place. And has anybody asked them, are they okay? Woo.
Shift this.
Well, hello there, sir.
Hey,
So what is your name?
my name is Joel T. Lester.
Awesome sauce. This documentary is actually about music, so could you tell us how long you've been doing music?
Don't want to give my age away, but I've been doing music for a long, long time, like well over 20 years.
Wow. Awesome sauce. Awesome. Okay, well, we'll just get right into the questions.
Okay.
So, how has life changed since March 2020 for you?
Life has changed dramatically. I'm an artist who's used to being faithful at your home church, of course, but also traveling, singing, and ministering all over the place, and connecting to an audience. So with this pandemic, of course, you cannot really have an audience, so it's drastically changed.
And I know that you have personal music and you have like a church that you work for. Is it the same when it comes to your personal music? Just trying to
No.
connect or make music?
It's different. They're in two different categories. The church, my mentality is completely different because it's not about my ministry per se. It's about what that house needs and what works for that house as far as music is concerned.
Somebody give your great God a great praise in this place. Hallelujah. Yeah, you're greater. God, you're greater. You're the God that can part a Red Sea. You're the God that gives us power to bring down every Goliath. Say, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Even if we're in the desert, you give us water right in the desert. You're greater. I need you to declare it at home. You are greater than anything I'm facing. You are greater. Yeah.
It's all about the songs that God gives me. And I can do whatever I want to do with my own ministry, whereas the church, you kind of have to form fit it to that house.
Wow. So when it comes to new music, since March, have you had new music? Are you inspired? Or
I do have new music. I've not been inspired, and then there are days that I am inspired. So it's like bipolarism. But I do have new music that I am working on that hopefully will be out either by the end of this year or the spring of next year.
Wow.
So yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Do you find it hard to stay connected to your team, both your personal team and then your church team?
I don't find it necessarily hard to keep connected because there's so many avenues that you can stay connected. The hard part comes in with this pandemic, again, like we just talked about a few minutes ago, the desire to even want to talk to anybody. Like people are dealing with depression and all kinds of things. So I do try to keep connected as far as having Zoom meetings or phone calls, things like that. So it can be difficult, but not necessarily on my part. Right. I mean, like I said before, I've tried to have Zoom meetings. There are phone calls. There are planning meetings where, for at least for my personal ministry, where I've had phone conferences so that we can pick alternative dates so that we can have a concert or something. Now, whether it's going to happen, it depends on whether the pandemic is still going on, but at least we're planning so that in people's minds, they get excited about the idea of coming together and doing something. So I can't do it. I can't do it only because my singers and my band, they're all in New York. So it's hard for me to do that. As far as the church is concerned, the band, you know, after some rehearsals, they'll take time just to kind of jam or whatever. But with this pandemic, we haven't been able to have like a jam session where the singers and musicians come together and just have fun, just give God glory. We haven't had an opportunity to do that since I've been in California.
Is that something that you want to do?
Absolutely. And during this pandemic, it's really needed. Like, we need to come together. We need to sing. We need to minister to each other. We need to allow God to minister to us. So it's in the works. I'm planning on doing something here in California real soon. Hopefully, it'll start off once a month, like a night of worship. And hopefully it'll go to two times a month. But yeah, it's in the works.
Wow.
Yes. Stress, I don't know about panic, but it can be stressful because since we are not really able to meet weekly as a full music ministry, I'll say, like we have at the church, there are a few singers where we now meet every week. But it can be stressful trying to choose songs that they can identify with, they can connect with. And then even in the pandemic, people are still very busy. So it can be stressful when they don't do their homework. And so when we come to rehearsal and it doesn't flow, I'm a perfectionist, so it drives me crazy sometimes. But I know people are doing the best they can in this pandemic. So it can be stressful. I don't panic though. Not gonna panic.
That's good.
No. Of course, I mean, there have been times where ministry has been hard, but this is different. So no, I can't remember ever dealing with something like this, and prayerfully won't have to deal with something like this again, because this is a mess.
Right.
Yeah. For me, honestly, even though we're living in uncertain times, I'm certain about the God that I serve. I'm certain that He is more than able to fix any situation. And even though we're in a pandemic and it seems like we're in the middle of a tornado and windstorm, I can be calm in the storm because He's got me covered. So through prayer, through singing, even through fellowship, the little fellowship that I have with the singers and the musicians at the church here, through, again, Zoom calls. My dad is a pastor, so through him, talking to my family, that keeps me motivated. So yeah. It has been hard. Again, for me, it's been hard because I don't have my musicians here with me. Whereas if I was in New York during this pandemic, it would be a little easier because I could still get with them. We could still create. I could tell them what I heard. They could play it. Here, I haven't found that connection yet with a particular musician to do that. So, yeah, it's definitely hard to create here. Not by myself because, I mean, I have my little studio. So if I hear songs, I can go and record it and do harmonies and things. But it's definitely hard to connect as far as putting the music to the songs that I hear.
Well, those are all of my questions. Thank you so much for your time. I feel like I will have so much more to say.
And I was ready too.
He's ready. Well, I think, what I want the audience to see and connect with is the artist as themselves. We as the world, I see that I don't consider myself an artist when music is in and out my life.
Okay.
So what I would like the world to see is how your world is affected. I feel like we're so entertained by you guys, but we really don't know what you're going through or what's actually happening in your world.
Yeah.
Now that the world has been flipped upside down, and you know, it's the reason why we call the documentary new music.
Yeah.
Because it's literally new music. We may never go back to where we were. So in my brain, I kind of wanted to know, where are you? Where's your mindset? What is this world like for you? Is it scary?
It's definitely scary. My mind is actually all over the place because, I mean, when you're used to, especially those musicians and singers who are full-time, like who really, this is their livelihood. Thank God that, you know, I'm still able to do music and I'm at a church, so I'm still able to be sustained financially. But when you depend on traveling and getting paid, you know, going from city to city and even out of the country, like I'm used to going out of the country once a year. So when all of that is taken from you, it's like, what do I do now? Because this is where my money is coming from. So I do see that a lot of singers and musicians are being creative where they're doing live streams, you know, and they might ask people to donate $5 or something like that, which is very good. And hopefully people will do it because this is their livelihood. And we need music. Music is so important. So, but for me, again, I'm all over the place because that element is missing from my life right now. And that is a huge, like I live, breathe music. So when you're not able to do what you love and what you know you're called to do, it can be very depressing. And it can make you want to give up, especially if you don't have a strong support system. So I thank God for a strong support system, but even with the support system, I have my days where I'm like, is it over for me? Like, cause I don't know what else I want to do. You understand what I mean? So it's definitely been hard, been difficult. You deal with, like I said, depression and you want to give up. You're like, okay, Lord, just take me out of here. My job is done, I guess. But the truth of the matter is, I believe we might not go to what we knew as normal, but I do believe that we'll get back to being able to perform and minister in front of audiences and things like that. So I'm looking forward to that day. Rona, get out of here. Nobody got time for you. Like, you've been here too long. Like, pack your bags and boot, go. Sheesh.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Done. Right. Well, I thank you. That's exactly what I wanted. I just wanted to get into the world of the artist and understand how to people. But just thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Not even just for this, but thank you for what you do, because, you know, I couldn't imagine my world without you. It's not my everyday life, but I couldn't have my world without it. So instead of us, you know, pretty much abusing that aspect of our lives, let's kind of get into who we are, what we're doing, how we are. Are you okay? Like, you know,
Yeah.
thank you for showing up. You know? 'Cause I mean, at the end of the day, I can imagine it's just like, this isn't really benefiting me like it did before, so why
Yeah.
not just quit, you know?
And I have a lot of music friends. They're not okay.
Right.
So
Right. Right. But thank you so much for
thank
your
you
time.
for having me.
And I think this is awesome. Okay, I got it. That is a wrap.
Yeah.
Awesome. And action.
Oh.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay.
That's fine.
When I look in retrospect, some choices weren't the best. Oh, you are my everything, the reason I live and breathe, my hope and trust I plan in you.
All right, so let's start off with your name.
Well, hello. My name is Gary. Gary, it is not a mistake.
You can look into the camera and say that.
My name is not. So my name is Gary, and it's not a mistake.
Awesome sauce. All right. It wasn't on the list, but I do like to ask, how long have you been in music?
So I've been in music pretty much all my life, but professionally, I started at the age of 17. Really started really getting into it, just doing everything, starting from drums to directing the choir, then singing, then playing the organ and playing the keyboard. So it's just been a journey all my life. I had to fight. Well, I think everybody's life's changed in one way or another. With this whole coronavirus and pandemic, I can honestly say my life really hasn't changed as much as certain people, and I thank God for that. Still have a job, quite a few jobs actually, and God has still been providing. And I think I've been on this thing about tithing, so I think being a tither really helps me to continue to keep a job and still protect me from the sickness and the COVID and all that stuff. So I'm just covered by COVID, covered through COVID.
Right. I feel you. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next question is it hard to keep your team connected? And meaning, I know that you're a leader. Mm-hmm. You're a minister of music, so you're a leader to your music team. Is it hard to keep them connected in this season?
You know what? It's actually been quite difficult. Not because they don't want to be connected. It's just the fact that during all this whole time, we had to separate ourselves because of the powers that be, have to call, these different types of staying at home type of, things that we had to do. So it's been somewhat difficult. It's been somewhat difficult, but we always stay in touch with through cell phone, of course. Technology really helps drastically and greatly with that. So, but as far as musically playing together, yes, it's been tough. It's been tough because you want to feel your brothers, you want to feel your sisters, whoever's playing, to get that energy, and so we all can just have that vibe and that chemistry. So it's been up and down, but for the most part, yes, it has been a challenge.
I do know for you, I know you through church, that the first chorus of this wave, you had to play alone.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was quite interesting. Now the thing is, I started playing by myself, as far as just a drummer and an organ player. So and then once I learned to adapt to playing with a band, a full band, and then losing it again, it was like, oh my God, it's like, where's your life support? It's life support. You need the drums, you need the bass, you need the other organ, you need the the saxophone that we have at the church. So you look at all those components to create what you want to create. It's really hard, but thank God, being a producer, it's easy because you can create all of that, in the studio and just kind of, creating those things that are missing to kind of give you that, but it's nothing like the real thing, baby.
Right. I feel you on that one. Okay, next question. What have you tried to do to keep the ministry running smoothly?
With that, talking to Bishop, just making sure that we can kind of, keep some type of flow going. So I talked to Bishop, and then I'll talk to our minister of music, Joel, and we'll say, I can do this. I can create all these at home. If if you still want a full sound, I can do this at home. I can, go home and get on this keyboard and just create all types of sound and making it big as if we have a full 15-piece band when it's just me and him. So we just try to keep it doing that way, try to keep it afloat. Now, the other thing with that is, connecting with the band, you always try to keep that brotherhood, that phone open. So you want to kind of like talk to them on a regular, like, yo, I hope all is well with you and your family. You know, I'm thinking about y'all, you know. So with that was pretty cool to always make sure that you're thinking of them. And they appreciate that. So when it comes, they're like, man, Gary, I appreciate you, you know, for always just, you know, checking out on me. I'm like, yeah, you know, you're my brother. You know, I got to make sure I'm more than just a leader. I don't really run by titles. You know, I'm not that title type of dude. I just really just kind of make sure that whoever can trust me, let me lead them. That's my thing.
Right. Awesome. All right. Okay, so this is probably a hard question. Do you find that stress and panic play a part in your process now?
Now?
And even think about in the beginning, because like now, you know, like we need you to do what you do. We need you to make your magic, but by yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what? I love my life. Let me just start that. And the reason why I say that is when you love what you do, you don't stress.
Right.
When you love what you do, you don't panic. I think the only thing that will come from like, oh my God, what we got to do is, what can I put right here? It's more so excitement than like, oh my God, I'm feeling so down because I don't have this. Music is like the most beautiful thing to ever have in life. And so when you have it, when you are music, you never stress. You never panic about nothing because you can just create so much. That's a language that people, I wish everybody can understand. It's so amazing to have music as a language. And so with that, I don't stress. I don't look at it as anything. I don't look at it as work. I don't look at it as, you know, something that I have to do. This is something that I want to do. I want to make people feel good through music. I want people to look at me like, man, that dude is really into it because I am, because I am music. Yeah, I believe it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think we just got the tag to the end of the show. That was it. So the next question would be, can you remember, was there ever a time that ministry was this hard as 2020?
Ministry is work. I would say that. Ministry is always going to be work. And I think there are their own separate challenges. Especially for me, going through ministry as just not necessarily like a minister, but a minister in training. Going through that was work because, you know, you got to stay in your word. You got to study. You study to show thyself approved, huh? Right. And so, so that was work. And then you finally get comfortable in that. And then being a leader and a minister at the same time, you know, that was work because you have to reach people where they are. Everybody is not going to be biblically sound, you know what I'm saying? And so you have to kind of like meet them. So that was a challenge. But once you get used to it, it's like, okay, they can understand me, I can understand them. Let's keep moving forward. So I think every round goes higher and higher. And so for 2020, it was their challenge. It was the challenge because now you have to really minister to people virtually more than being there physically. And so that's their challenge. But again, once you get comfortable in it, you know how to reach people because now you're starting to see the response and you're hearing the response like, you know what, you're blessing me through the music, you're blessing me through the word, keep it up, keep doing it. So it becomes a thing where it's like, you know what? It's not a challenge no more. We're here. We're here. I mean, you adjust as you go. You know, it's I don't want to consider it to be the new normal, but from what it looks like, you know, so it may be. But I truly believe God is going to pull us out and pull us through.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Do you feel it hard to create new music? And meaning, not many of you are actual artists that we're talking to, but you are an actual artist. We can see behind him, he has his own album up there. So you are an actual artist. Have you made new music? Is it hard to just be inspired to make new music since March?
There are, I guess, people call them brain farts. There are moments where it could be because you want to create your own identity, and I think that's where the challenge becomes when you don't want to sound like another artist. Because quiet as kept, everybody is starting to sound the same to me. That's just my honest opinion. Everybody has the same riff, run, music, the flow, and all that stuff. So my challenge is I want people to know who Gary is. I want them to see that's Gary's identity. That's when they close their eyes and they can hear what's going on, the language, that's Gary voice. And I can tell. So that's where the challenge becomes. But for the most part, it's not hard. It's not hard. It's fun.
Right.
I am music.
Right.
So it's just so much fun to create what you love to do.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome. So now it's just kind of open to the floor. Is there anything that you want to talk about, concerning music, concerning new music in this time?
Oh, I wasn't ready for that one. Oh, so you want to throw that at me, huh?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Give me a minute, y'all.
Right, this is Mrs. Gary, new music documentary. So my one and only question, elaborate as much as you would like, is how is it being the wife of a musician during this pandemic?
That's a great question. It's a blessing and a curse. It is definitely a blessing because he's just so great. He's very talented, very creative. It's just very fun and interesting just watching him in his element, being able to create and what he comes up with. And then sometimes he lets me sing, so that's fun too, which I love to do as well. But it's definitely a curse as well because, when you want to just chill and, watch TV or things like that, he just be tinkling away. You be like, okay. He'll 15 more minutes, he'll probably stop. Okay. No, all right. 30 more minutes, maybe he'll stop. So then sometimes you just like, okay, well, can't beat him, join him. But no, it's like I said, it's definitely a blessing, just to be married to a musician, just to follow it and see the growth and especially throughout the pandemic, just so many people, joy has been taken away, but that's where you can find peace. That's where you can find happiness. That's where you can laugh, smile, and everything else, just thinking about what you can create, the sound that you can, that you hear from him just, again, being creative on the piano. So I wouldn't trade this life. I love being married to a musician, and listen, I'm just excited to see what is going to come out of him next. So y'all stay tuned.
Yeah. Okay, from that question, I'm sorry, I only said one, but from that question, I have another one.
Okay.
So, do you find yourself worried about him in a sense of trying, you know what I mean? Is it too much? Especially in the beginning, I asked him about him being the only one. There's not even any other musician, so it's all on him to come up with it. Do you find yourself worried about it being too much pressure or, protective in a way?
I'm always protective of him. Even though he's the man, the alpha and all of that, I'm still always very protective of him. But in regards to being worried, no, I'm not. Gary always finds a way to overcome. He always finds a way to be able to deal with whatever is thrown at him. Even though it may be rough, he always finds a way to get through it. So I'm never worried in that sense. If anything, it will be just not necessarily worried, but frustrated if he's being taken advantage of in any type of way. So, but in regards to there being work, in regards to him being creative, in regards to him being able to be in his element and do what he does, no, never worried. On top of that, even though we're still in a pandemic and things are still in lockdown, so the things that he was able to do prior to, the many places he was able to go without any restrictions or anything like that. Even though that is very minimum, the fact that he can still get whatever his job is done because he's a producer and he can just do it here in the studio. So there's always work to get done regardless. So yeah. Ooh. Oh. Oh. See.
Okay, do it again.
Oh. Oh.
You can use that too. I would like to encourage, let me talk to y'all out there. I would like to encourage you all. Any inspiring artist, any inspiring musician, any inspiring producer, engineer, whatever your case may, even if it's not music, if you want to be a model, if you want to be an entrepreneur, I would say continue to go forward. Do not allow distractions to disrupt your direction to your destination.
Boy, you better preach. Hallelujah. All right, can we get a little sample of some music of Gary?
Sure. All I want and all I need is you, Lord. All I want and all I need is you, Lord, Lord. I need thee,
All right, so hi. Thank you for being here, sir. If we could just start off with your name.
Ezekiel Martinez.
And what do you play, Ezekiel?
I play the saxophone, so the alto saxophone, the tenor sax. Those are my two primary instruments. Once in a while, I play the soprano sax.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So how long have you been playing?
I've been playing since 2007, roughly at the end of 2006, 2007, as I was graduating from high school. I switched from the clarinet over to the saxophone. I just knew it was going to be a lot more in demand in music, a lot more to do with advanced gigs, more universal with jazz, hip-hop, Latin music, salsa music.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's why I decided to go that route than the traditional classical clarinet. Yeah.
So have you played with, that kind before, like all of those, that kind of music?
No, actually, I didn't. So I just was exposed through it through a church after I graduated in 2007. I picked up the sax, very familiar with the style of playing, both woodwind instruments, and so I picked up the alto sax, and at the church, my home church where I grew up in Rialto, actually purchased me a saxophone.
Wow.
Yeah, they purchased me a saxophone, so they helped me continue on the my music ministry. So
Wow,
yeah,
that's awesome.
It is.
That's a blessing.
yeah, it definitely is a
Awesome.
blessing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's head on to the question. So, this documentary, of course, as you know, is called New Music. And my first question is, how has your life changed since March 2020?
So yeah, March 2020, that was the COVID lockdown. They made the announcement on television, and I was in disbelief. I couldn't grasp the idea of actually shutting down our life, everything that was considered non-essential. And then I wanted to see if a musician was part of that. Sadly, it's unfortunate that they did consider that not essential. So it definitely impacted my ability to network with people here in California. Especially primary focus was in church and any other events, family events, or within my network, corporate events, birthday events, anything with music definitely impacted me. Everything pretty much died down for me, so I wasn't busy from doing 3 events, on average 3 events a month, to literally 0. Definitely including the church, so that's where I would play a lot. I'd get invites to play within the SoCal region, and that was done. So that was a freeze on my hobby, my my semi-professional career. It was halted. It was at a pause. And I still in disbelief due to the nationwide or the state lockdown. So it affected my ability to rehearse with musicians because it was technically illegal to gather. So it definitely impacted. Wasn't able to. I didn't feel motivated to rehearse, even alone. I didn't see a point in doing it. So that also affected my rehearsing motivation. There's really no point in rehearsing if I wasn't going to play any events or play with bands or do any church events. So definitely took a bit of an emotional toll in the beginning. Again, I was still in disbelief. It felt like a dream. Then it started hitting me, I say like around April, when I didn't touch my sax for about a month, and that's when it really hit me emotionally. Music is definitely a way I like to express myself. You know, you have comedians that can talk and express themselves. For me, being a musician and expressing my thoughts, my feelings, and to the saxophone is what drives my motivation, my purpose. It gives me purpose, especially in the ministry, which is my primary focus, church ministry. But even outside of that, seeing people have a good time and smile satisfied me. So not being able to do that definitely took a toll on me emotionally. Not being able to entertain people in that sense, have a good time, that definitely affected me. So that was one of the biggest impacts. Even today, as we speak, we're in October now, mid-October, or beginning of October. Still hasn't really changed. It's still the same. Really can't gather, really can't do anything. All venues are pretty much still shut down until I heard to like next year. So it's definitely affected my ability to continue playing at events. There's really, I mainly focus on live performances. I'm not really a producer in that sense. I'm more of a live performer. So if you can't perform live, virtual doesn't compare. Doing virtual performances really doesn't compare. Maybe it's a new transition. Maybe that is the new thing to do. When there's something dynamic as COVID, there's definitely have to work around that. So it's either getting adjusted to the new normal in the sense of doing everything virtual, do everything live but on the screen. For me, it's going to be difficult to transition. So I'm trying to see if I'm going to be one of those musicians that will be able to adapt. You don't, as a musician, live performer, you don't get the same vibe, the same feedback virtually than when you do a live performance. So that's part of, like an integral part of a live performer. You just get feedback off the audience. Hey, do I play certain music? How are the audience responding to how I'm playing? I need to give more, give less, and virtually, it creates a different type of performer. So it's been difficult, and those are the changes that have affected me as a musician. You know, just we'll see how it goes from here. I'm definitely trying to adapt to the virtual. At the moment, I don't like it, but but we'll see how it plays out from here and on. We'll see if the people respond to the virtual experience well. If they do, I'll continue being a musician, you know, perform. But if not, I mean, we'll see. Time will tell.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is it hard to keep your team connected? And you kind of already answered that, like, you know, being a live performer, you don't really connect. Can I say that if you practiced with an outside team other than COP since March?
So I rehearsed with some musicians that I have networked with throughout the years, and since we can't do any live events anymore, no weddings or no corporate events, we pretty much haven't gotten together anymore. So it's been difficult to connect if there's no reason to connect. Besides social gatherings, besides that, like when it comes to the musical aspect of it, we really haven't connected anymore. So if you don't have the music, a reason to get together, which our primary thing was music to perform, we'd get together to perform. If we don't have that, there's no really reason to connect. So yeah, it's been difficult. Again, we've tried the virtual experience, getting record on our own and then submit to one of my good friends, and get the videos together. But again, it's just not the same feel. It's not the same experience. So it's been difficult to connect. It has. Again, technically, we're not supposed to gather together, so that the law won't allow us either. So that, of course, that's made it difficult as well to gather. So it's been tough.
I'm going to skip over this next question because it's another team question. You kind of pretty much answered that. So the next question would be, do you find that stress and panic play a part in your process? And what I mean by that is process with you saying that you're a live performer. Are you stressed at all that you're not prepared like you usually are because you just can't gather? Or
Oh yeah, the stress element, definitely. I don't know where the future is going with this, so is it the end of live performance? So as a saxophonist, it's, you know, the fact that we can't predict the future, especially with what's going on. Will the lockdowns end, or is this something that we have to adjust to the new normal? So I'm stressed with the fact that that I based my whole musicianship on live performance, and stress that might never come back again, sadly, unfortunate. So yeah, it's a little bit stressful, knowing that's something I look forward to as a kid, or ever since I graduated high school, being a live, focused more on live performance. And definitely is stressful thinking about it. Is today the day that's it, it's done with? Is it? So yeah, it's a little bit stressful thinking about the future, unknown future. So yeah, that's the situation.
oh my goodness. Okay, the next question would be, can you remember, was there ever a time where ministry, because you play a lot in church, where ministry was this hard?
From the top of my head, if I can think about it right now, I can't not think of a time than today. As difficult as today, there was a time where I had to get surgery, and I was out about 6 to 8 weeks when I had surgery in 2009. But I was back up and playing again. It hasn't, I don't think anything is compared to what we've encountered today. Again, my network isn't growing. Maybe virtually, but again, it's not the same. Not doing any events, not doing any venues. So this is definitely one of the most difficult times in ministry. Again, at the moment with the situation in California lockdowns, we can't gather at churches, so there's no performing for me at churches. So it's definitely been very difficult time since I've started roughly 2007. So yeah, I don't think there's been a time that's comparable or close to it. This is by far the most difficult time. So yeah, that's without a doubt.
Ooh. The last question, and of course you can expound, or you kind of already touched on it, but do you feel it hard to create new music in this time?
So I've thought about probably getting a little bit more into producing the new modern music, and try to incorporate the elements of jazz into that new trap, hip hop, or lo-fi jazz type. So I've kind of leaned a little bit, thought about reevaluating myself as a live performer and going into the producing, because that's a different element in the music. So I've thought about transitioning to that. I'm slowly doing it, slowly, as I see the live performing is slowly fading away, and that's going to be the new transition. I'm trying to adapt to the performance aspect of it, so slowly working on my purchasing and equipment and see where that goes. For me, that's a whole new spectrum in the music field. So the producing and all that. So I'm starting from scratch. I had to redefine the direction I was going as a live performer, ministry, to now as a producer, to stay busy as a musician. So it's.
Do you find this way a little bit more fulfilling?
Yeah, I definitely find that it still fulfills and satisfies that people listen to music that they'll get to enjoy, definitely. Again, it's just for me, so I have to step back again, like when I started in 2007, and network, a whole new network, and find a different way, reach different platforms, different audience, on how to get that music out now virtually with all the social media platforms. So that's something, that direction I'm definitely slowly planning to make sure it's successful and I stay relevant as a musician. So definitely, yeah, it's been really difficult. It's been tough. So
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Listen, but thank you so much for expressing this with us.
yeah.
To him.
Can you state your name for the camera?
Kevin Stansel.
Say again?
Kevin Stansel.
Awesome. Okay, so as you know, this is a documentary about new music, about your lives as an artist, and since the pandemic. So the first question is, how has your life changed since March 2020?
March 2020. I think what changed dramatically as far as life is concerned is the shutdown, obviously, of not being able to go out and go on vacations or go on excursions or what have you. Once the country shut down, it changed life as we know it. So it was very easy to feel somewhat unorthodox because of the fact that, you know, life, again, as we know it, had changed due to the fact that what's normal is not normal anymore. So, you know, gatherings, being with family, friends, going to the malls, going to the movies, all of that, going to the music store, of course, is what I do. It was very hard. It was a big change. It was also hard to adapt to that because for years, this is what we've been able to do. So it's changed drastically within that measure. Mm-hmm.
And as from a music standpoint, as an artist, how has, you know, the calls from you actually having jobs or going out, has that changed drastically, or are you still capable of working?
Anybody in my field has been drastically affected by this change. And then the other thing is that the tours and everything, the physical going to the studio, recording sessions and all of that came to a screeching halt. A lot of people who work with different artists, recording artists and touring artists and all of that, everything again just came to a complete stop, and it actually made things a little different where normally what I would do is go do live recordings. So we would go to different states, different cities or whatever. All of that again came to a halt. So what people do now is, with technology being the way it is, they just send their music to me at my house. I record on it and I send it back. So we don't lose in that magnitude, but just the interaction with each other has been a drastic change. So how it's changed, just again with them sending their music in, it hasn't affected that. But as far as again the going out and just the experience, the audiences and the big stages and all of that just came to a halt. So it hasn't really changed as far as being an artist is concerned, because again, you have that element where again they can send their music in, you can record to it, they can tell you what they want, how they want it, the whole thing, thanks to technology. But once you've gotten to that point where you're done with that, you're still sitting at the house. So again, there's this whole thing about not going anywhere. So, but hadn't changed too much in that regard. But again, the travel is just what it is. So.
So sorry. Okay, so do you find that stress and panic play a part in your process now?
Stress can, panic no. Fortunately, well, let me say this way, a lot of people have been affected negatively by the pandemic. So that produces stress within itself. I hate to say this, but during the pandemic era, I think just individuals that I know, I've lost about 49 people who've died from the COVID-19 pandemic. And, you know, 2020 just wiped us out. So it really just did a number to a lot of people. So stress and panic came at a time when people were getting sick suddenly. You know, people unfortunately transitioned from this earth, and that was really hard. I think the light went out. Yeah, I think the light went out. It's right there. Did you pay the bill?
Right. Did I pay the bill? How did it go out? Because this light's still on. This is still
What?
Because it's kept us involved. It's good.
Y'all crazy. So what? Did it go out?
Yeah, I don't know why. It's still green.
There you go.
What's that, sir?
No, they're not. Not yet. No.
They're still on.
All right, so let's just go ahead and move on to the next question.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look on your
No, I was looking at Toya.
face. So cute. Okay. Can you remember a time where ministry was this hard?
No. You know, we've all gone through circumstances and things have happened, and people go through their individual stuff. And, you know, life tries you every single day. So we get all of that. As far as ministry is concerned, I don't remember it being this hard, but to some, from what I'm recognizing, it's actually easier now because a lot of people have to not rely on what they relied on before. So now they have to come full circle and say, okay, we need help. We don't have help everywhere else like we normally did. So to some, it's easier to get people to pay attention now. So this was a wake-up call. And the virtual thing, with all of that, it's actually much easier if you think about it, because there was a day when you were at your church, they didn't have cameras, they didn't have the Wi-Fi, and they didn't have all of the videography and all of that as we have here now. So as a result of that, I think it's easier now to reach more people these days, and to be able to get the word out. And again, everybody is just, we talked about it earlier, panicking. You know, people need something to hold on to now, because what we had before is null and void at this point. So.
Awesome. Last question is, do you feel it hard to create new music?
No, I don't feel it's hard. I think the other thing is with me is that sometimes creating new music, sometimes you have to have your ear to the ground, because you'll end up sounding like somebody else. Because these days there's so many sounds that everybody's using the same sounds, everybody's using the same software, everybody's using the same microphones, everybody's using, you know, the chord structures are the same. Out of the 12 notes in the scale, every note has been played, every chord has been played, every beat has been beat, every riff has been, you know, uttered. So you have to make sure that when you create music that you come from the heart with it, because although we all have the same elements and the same ability, we don't have the same heart. So as a result of that, you know, it's easy to, when it comes from the heart, it's easier. Still trying to make sure you don't sound like nobody else, but one thing I know these days, a lot of people are so busy trying to sound like what they thought worked. So, you know, if you wrote a song and it got you so much publicity, it was so successful or whatever, then I'm going to try to create a sound that sounds like yours, because I want a piece of that pie. When actually what I did was I put myself in general population. So I'm mass produced, they won't find me because I sound so much like you. Why settle for me when you're there? So what we try to do now to create new music is to actually come from the heart with it. Make sure that, you know, you speak your mind. And if it doesn't sound like what works, then you are what works, because you're different. So, and that's what people are looking for. I always use people like, you know, I know this is church, but I've always used people like Prince. Like if Prince sounded like Michael Jackson, we would never know who he is. If Michael Jackson sounded like Prince, we would never know who he is. But because Prince decided he was going to be Prince, and Michael Jackson decided he was going to be Michael Jackson, we had two of these iconic individuals come together and create a sound like never before. And now that they're gone, you'll never hear them again. So anybody who tries to do what they did, more than likely, it won't come out the same. So new music, no, it's now we have to come from the heart, because again, the pandemic has shut us down, you know, so we have to come from a place where we understand that, you know, if I'm going to say this to you, it has to come from here, and that's what makes it different. So it's not hard to do.
Well, thank you so much. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you.
Do you have anything else that you would like to share with your fellow peers as musicians in this hard time?
You know what? I will say this. A lot of us are realizing that music is not like it used to be. The business is not like it used to be. Where doing a CD these days is not a big deal anymore. I remember back in the day when I was coming out and you said doing a record, it stopped the world. Oh my God, you're doing a record. Now somebody says, yeah, I got a CD coming out. Oh, okay, well, congrats. Because it's so easy now. The companies have made it so easy for us to literally do it in our own living room. So I would say now that the business has changed. We got to do other things now. You know, the road is not open. Travel is limited. So we have to get to a place where we understand that, you know, you might have to get an online business. You might have to, you know, the hustle is great now. I mean, if you ain't thinking about selling nothing before, everybody's selling something now, everybody. But I would just say, keep at the music, keep at the, you know, the posture of becoming a great musician, a greater musician. But, you know, also understand that, you know, once the music stops, you still got to pay the light bill. So do what you can and keep your hustle going, but don't stop playing. That's just it.
Well, thank you so much for being here, sir.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
That is a wrap.
He talked about the foundation, but I found out melodies can take people to places that they didn't know they could go. A lot of people don't know that the bass can be used as an instrument to usher in worship as well. A lot of people don't know that. But I found out through experience that this gift right here that I call, it's not just a bass to me, but I found out that this bass has the opportunity to bring you into such a level of worship as it's powerful. You know, God's word, God's music, God's power is never going to fade. So that's really where we are with that. But you got to learn the melodies of songs. And melodies can actually bring, like I said, it can bring you to a form of memory.
So you're saying we need to learn the melodies of the song. You're talking about this in our minds, or actually learning the song on bass?
On the instrument, yeah. Yeah, you need to learn, because what happened is, okay, wait.
So your name is?
My name is Charles Williams.
Awesome sauce. Thank you so much for being here, Charles. Let me get my questions. So, first question. How has your life changed since March 2020?
I'll say the biggest change has just been not knowing if churches are going to be open. I think, being a musician, I think most musicians kind of rely on kind of a church situation where they can play. So, hearing about all the churches closing doors, it's kind of been like, just hard to kind of deal with that, not knowing what's going to happen, I guess. So I think that's probably been the biggest change for me, just trying to deal with churches closing their doors, I think.
What have you tried to do to keep ministry and your music running smoothly in this time?
I think just making sure I, do things at home, because, with everything closing down, there wasn't really a lot of opportunities outside of the home for ministry. So, you kind of have to create those opportunities for yourself. Also, kind of using an opportunity at home to create music. It's been, because there's a lot of extra time now, right? Because, so many things have closed, right? So there's not venues like concerts and shows and things like that. Those opportunities aren't as readily available. So, I've had to kind of create my own thing, my own time, especially when it comes to worship and ministry.
Awesome. In this time, do you find stress and panic play a part in your process?
I mean, it's hard not to. Panic tries to creep up sometimes, because you hear about things and you're like, you worry about your family and things like that. So I try not to panic, but stress does come and go, and I try to deal with it. Music is one way that I deal with stress. Whether I'm listening to it or just taking time to create music, that's kind of like that's kind of my way of dealing with the stress. And talking about it is really important too. That kind of brings me back down when I feel like the panic is trying to creep in. So I have my ways of dealing with it to kind of keep my head kind of level.
Do you feel it hard to create new music in this time?
It's been harder because there's so many distractions, right? There's, I mean, with the pandemic, you have, you know, an election going on. You have so many changes with school, you know, and I have a family, so, you know, with your family, I think my kids, their school closed, so it's like a lot of changes going on. There's a lot of distractions, right? So I have to basically kind of manage my time carefully and create those moments for me to create music. So it's really just about time management, and there's going to be distractions regardless, you know, any time of the year. But especially right now, it's really important to manage your time, create those opportunities for you to sit down and you know, have your alone time so you can create. You know, I think one of the biggest I think one of the biggest things that makes creating music hard is just distractions. You know, you have to kind of be able to focus on that creative process. And so yeah, creating that time for yourself is just really, really important. So that's what I try to do on a regular basis.
Alrighty. Can you remember if there was ever a time where ministry was this hard?
I'll say, I mean, there's been difficult times for sure, but I think this has been like an awakening for so many people. This has been, I think, definitely one of the most difficult times I've ever witnessed or ever experienced. Because it's, you know, the whole world's been impacted, and churches everywhere have had to change the way they do church. You know, moving to the online platforms and things like that. It's been really difficult. You know, it's doable, but it's also difficult because, you know, people need to come together. People want to come together. It's a different atmosphere when you have people coming together. So I think that's been like the hardest for ministries. It's like not being able to come together as a church, you know. You know, because it's a whole different experience when you can be around people as opposed to just watching it on a screen, you know. So it's good to have technology, but it's definitely been difficult, for sure.
No other
this
time
time.
like this time.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been definitely no other time really compares to this time we're going through right now, for sure. Yeah.
Do you have anything that you would like to say to your peers, your fellow musicians in this time?
I would just say, you know, be encouraged. I know things have changed quite a bit, but there's still opportunities out there. Just, you know, be careful though, and don't be so stuck on, I know, you know, we got to make money, but there's some opportunities out there just to use your gift, you know, and kind of enjoy what you do. So you're not always gonna get paid. Like maybe somebody's offering a gig and you have open availability, you can still have an opportunity to play and use your gift. Sometimes, you know, God will bless you in the midst of that. He'll give you a blessing in the midst of that. So use your gift still, even if, you know, you're not always getting the money you're expecting, but you know, take those opportunities as they come to you.
Okay. So, can I have your name?
My name is Deshaun Brown.
Thank you for being here, Deshaun.
Yeah, most definitely.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to jump right into these questions.
Right.
And our first question, of course, you know that this documentary is about new music and your lives in this time. So, how has your life changed concerning music since March 2020?
It's changed tremendously. I don't go out as much anymore. Always at home, thinking about working on music or doing something, you know, to better myself as a producer. Even getting into some other stuff too, some other, you know, business ideas and all that. So, you know, I got time to stay home and think about my next move, you know, when this is all over.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's cool. That's good though. As a producer, have you been getting calls like from people?
Oh
do
yes.
music for you?
Yeah, most definitely.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I think like it's been better than ever at this point.
Wow.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. The next question is, what have you tried to do to keep ministry running smooth in this time?
To try to keep it running smooth. Honestly, I just do my part. You know, I'm here to play. You know, and I love playing. I love what I do. So I always, you know, make it fun or make it, you know, something that, you know, I enjoy.
Right.
If that answers your question.
Right.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you can probably block that out.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. Okay. So, do you find that stress and panic play a part in your process now?
No, not now. I think in the beginning, like when everything started, it was a little like, 'cause, you know, we didn't know what was happening next. So it's like, but I you know, I kept my faith. You know, I prayed about it, talked to God, and you know, He gave me the peace and the, you know, the courage and the confidence to move forward and keep going. Yeah. So I don't stress about it at all now at this point. I'm just ready for it to be over.
Right. No stress, but it can be.
You're right.
Awesome. Okay. Can you remember a time where ministry was this hard?
Honestly, to be honest, I don't consider it being hard now.
Right.
I think it's, you know, less people you got to deal with. It's not really hard. I think it's dope. I think it's amazing. Churches are finding new ways to do ministry. They're finding new ways to have church, and I think they should keep it going, keep the energy, and I think it's dope. Yeah, I don't mind going back to having church again and everybody come to church, but if it stays like this, I'm good with that too.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. It's a different perspective.
Yeah.
That's awesome. A bright perspective. Awesome. Last but not least, do you feel it hard to create new music? You kind of touched on it a little bit.
Oh yeah, nah, it's not hard at all. It's I'm at home sitting a lot of the times now, now that things are starting to kind of open back up, I'm able to get out, get some inspiration, and but as far as writing or composing new music, it's coming like that now.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's good because you know the premise of the documentary is kind of on a sad note, like you know.
Oh, well, I'm glad I could be a light.
Right. So it's good to have a perspective that's a light. Like, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's not truly affecting you in that way. So it's really good to have that.
Yeah.
And just if you have anything that you'd like to say, especially you, since it's so to your fellow musicians.
I would say, man, stay positive, stay encouraged, stay confident in what you do. Everything's gonna work out. It's gonna work out. It's gonna be even better. Yeah, it's gonna get there.
Awesome. Man, a few words.
Right.
Awesome sauce. Well, that's all I have. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. And that
Thank y'all so much.
Girl, don't leave me out.
I'm gonna do it with in tempo. I'm not. You
Are you doing the verse and everything?
I don't want to.
You doing the verse too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like that.